Rothbart. Love will always be your undoing. Johann Sebastian Bach was, of course, a genius composer. But to the singular performer, Toccata and Fugue in D minor stands head and shoulders above his other work. And now, for your listening pleasure, I've brought in one of my favorite scene partners, the lovely Jane Valderrama. Allow me to set the stage. Romeo, a Montague, has snuck into a gala being thrown by the rival Capulet family. But it is here that he first sets his eyes on his heart's greatest desire, the vision known as Juliet. If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle fine is this: my lips, two blushing pilgrims, ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this. For saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss.
Have not saints lips, and holy palmers too?
Aye, pilgrim, lips that they must use in prayer.
Oh, then, dear saint, let lips do what hands do. They pray. Grant thou, lest faith turn to despair.
Saints do not move, though grant for prayer's sake.
Then move not, while my prayer's effect I take. Thus, from my lips, by thine, my sin is purged. He kisses her,
Then have my lips the sin that they have took.
Sin from my lips? Oh, trespass, sweetly urged. Give me my sin again. He kisses her again.
You kiss by the book.
Thank you, Jane. Ravishing as always. Stay tuned, faithful listener. More classic music and literature is coming your way. Humanity, while flawed, was capable of making tremendous works of art, like this. Usage on the 4th of July makes some people think this is an American classic. How wrong you are. Here is the suite of the Toreadors from Carmen. Beethoven was a visionary who created the first work blending orchestral and choral arrangements into the aural ecstasy, colloquially called Ode to Joy. And now, a selection from the bard's Othello. Iago, thus do I ever make my fool my purse. For I mine own gained knowledge should profane, if I would time expend with such a snipe. But for my sport and profit, I hate the Moor. And it is thought abroad that twixt my sheets he has done my office. I know not if to be true, but I, for mere suspicion in that kind, will do as if for surety. He holds me well, the better shall my purpose work on him. Cassio's a proper man, let me see now. To get his place and to plume up my will in double knavery. How? Let's see. After some time, to abuse Othello's ear that he is too familiar with his wife. He hath a person and a smooth disposed to be suspected, framed to make women false. The Moor is of a free and open nature, that thinks men honest, that but seem to be so, and will as tenderly be led by the nose as asses are. I have it. It is engendered. Hell and night must bring this monstrous birth to the world's light. Iago, said by some to be the greatest villain in literature. However, such a claim is often made by Philistines trying to ingratiate themselves to their social betters. No. Shakespeare's most detestable creature is Aaron the Moor in Titus Andronicus.
Sempre ora vanile reggiano viso, il pianto in riso e menzognero. La donna è mobile, ma il più perfetto, muta l'accento e di pensiero. E di pensiero. è sempre misero, chi a lei s'affida, chi le confida, ma il coto e il core, pur mai la sete si felice a pieno, qui su quel seno l'oliva amore, la donna è mobile, qual più dal vento, muta le cielo tu, e di pensiero, e di pensiero,
As uplifting as it is charming, that song always makes me smile. And now I'd like to welcome back K-12's own Jane Valderrama, who will be aiding me in breathing life into the bard's most famous scene. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady. Oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eye discourses. I will answer it. No, I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. Two of the fairest stars in all the heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there, they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars, as daylight doth a lamp. Her eyes in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she leans her cheek upon her hand. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek.
Ay me.
She speaks. Oh, speak again, bright angel, for thou art as glorious to this night being o'er my head as a winged messenger of heaven unto the white, upturned, wondering eyes of mortals that fall back to gaze on him when he bestrides the lazy pacing clouds and sails upon the bosom of the air.
Oh, Romeo! Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father, and refuse thy name, or, if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet.
Shall I hear more, or shall I speak at this?
'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, though not a Montague. What's Montague? It is nor hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title. Romeo, doff thy name, and for that name, which is no part of thee, take all myself.
I take thee at thy word. Call me but love, and I'll be new baptized. Henceforth I never will be Romeo. They were children, but what they forgot about love, most never even learned. I am Zinyak, and you are listening to my favorite selections. You tuned into this station to better yourself, and I am happy to oblige.
recita l'arco. La 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 la. Ah, presto battega che nel mangiar, presto. La 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 la. Ah, che bel vivere, che bel piacere, per un barbiere di qualità, di qualità. Ah, brava, brava, bravissima, bravo. La 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 la. Ah, una bellissima per verità, bravo. La 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 la. Fortunatissima per verità, fortunatissima per verità. La 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 la. Pronto a far tutto la notte e il giorno, sempre d'intorno in giuro sta, miglior compagna per un barbiere, nobile non si dà. La 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 la. La storia petti mi lanciate forbici, al mio comando tutto qui sta. La storia petti mi lanciate forbici, al mio comando tutto qui sta. Vela risorsa, poi del mestiere, con la donnetta, col cavaliere, con la donnetta, la 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 la, col cavaliere, la 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 la, la la la. Che bel vivere, che bel piacere, per un barbiere di qualità, di qualità. Tutti mi chiedono, tutti mi vogliono, donne ragazze, vecchi fanciulle, qua la parrucca, resto una parra, qua la sanguigna, resto il biglietto, tutti mi chiedono, tutti mi vogliono, tutti mi vogliono, tutti mi vogliono, qua la parrucca, resto la parra, resto il biglietto e Figaro, 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 Figaro. Ahimè, che folla, una volta per carità,
It is quite simply the happiest song about a man and his dead wife you'll ever hear. After orchestrating the rape and mutilation of Lavina, Aaron was finally brought to his knees. When asked if he was sorry for his heinous deeds, this was his reply. "Aye, that I had not done 1,000 more. Even now I curse the day, and yet I think few come within the compass of my curse, wherein I did not some notorious ill, as kill a man, or else devise his death, ravish a maid, or plot the way to do it, accuse some innocent, and forswear myself, set deadly enmity between two friends, make poor men's cattle break their necks, set fire on barns and haystacks in the night, and bid the owners quench them with their tears. Oft I have digged up dead men from their graves, and set them upright at their dear friend's door, even when their sorrows almost was forgot, and on their skins, as on the bark of trees, have with my knife carved in Roman letters, 'Let not your sorrow die, though I am dead.' I have done 1,000 dreadful things, as willingly as one would kill a fly. And nothing grieves me heartily indeed, but that I cannot do 10,000 more. Now that, my friends, is a man of conviction." Modest Mussorgsky, original architect of nightmares. It was Beethoven's last completed work, but it is arguably his best. Sadly, the dance The Can-Can gets the credit for that majestic score. And now for some lighter fare. The first chapter of the Jane Austen classic, Pride and Prejudice. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. However little known the feelings or views of such a man may be on his first entering a neighborhood, this truth is so well fixed in the minds of the surrounding families that he is considered the rightful property of someone or other of their daughters. "My dear Mr. Bennet," said his lady to him one day, "have you heard that Netherfield Park is let at last?" Mr. Bennet replied that he had not. "But it is," returned she, "for Mrs. Long has just been here, and she told me all about it." Mr. Bennet made no answer. "Do you not want to know who has taken it?" cried his wife impatiently. "You want to tell me, and I have no objection to hearing it." This was invitation enough. "Why, my dear, you must know. Mrs. Long says that Netherfield is taken by a young man of large fortune from the north of England. That he came down on Monday in a chaise and four to see the place, and was so much delighted with it that he agreed with Mr. Morris immediately. That he is to take possession before Michaelmas, and some of his servants are to be in the house by the end of the week." "What is his name?" "Bingley." "Is he married or single?" "Oh, single, my dear, to be sure. A single man of large fortune. 4,000 or 5,000 a year. What a fine thing for our girls." "How so? How can it affect them?" "My dear Mr. Bennet," replied his wife, "how can you be so tiresome? You must know that I am thinking of his marrying one of them." "Is that his design in settling here?" "Design? Nonsense! How can you talk so? But it is very likely that he may fall in love with one of them, and therefore you must visit him as soon as he comes." "Well, I see no occasion for that. You and the girls may go, or you may send them by themselves, which perhaps will be still better, for as you are as handsome as any of them, Mr. Bingley may like you the best of the party." "My dear, you flatter me." "I certainly have had my share of beauty, but I do not pretend to be anything extraordinary now. When a woman has 5 grown-up daughters, she ought to give over thinking of her own beauty." "In such cases a woman has not often much beauty to think of." "But, my dear, you must indeed go and see Mr. Bingley when he comes into the neighbourhood." "It is more than I engage for, I assure you." But consider your daughters. Only think what an establishment it would be for one of them. Sir William and Lady Lucas are determined to go, merely on that account, for in general, you know, they visit no newcomers. Indeed, you must go, for it will be impossible for us to visit him if you do not. You are over-scrupulous, surely. I dare say Mr. Bingley will be very glad to see you, and I will send a few lines by you to assure him of my hearty consent to his marrying whichever he chooses of the girls. Though I must throw in a good word for my little Lizzie. Oh, I desire you to do no such thing. Lizzie is not a bit better than the others, and I am sure she is not half so handsome as Jane, nor half so good-humoured as Lydia. But you are always giving her the preference. They have none of them much to recommend them, replied he. They are all silly and ignorant like other girls, but Lizzie has something more of quickness than her sisters. Mr. Bennet, how can you abuse your own children in such a way? You take delight in vexing me. You have no compassion for my poor nerves. You mistake me, my dear. I have a high respect for your nerves. They are my old friends. I have heard you mention them with consideration these last 20 years at least. Ah, you do not know what I suffer. But I hope you will get over it and live to see many young men of 4,000 a year come into the neighbourhood. It will be no use to us if 20 such should come, since you will not visit them. Depend on it, my dear, that when there are 20, I will visit them all. Mr. Bennet was so odd a mixture of quick parts, sarcastic humour, reserve, and caprice, that the experience of 23 years had been insufficient to make his wife understand his character. Her mind was less difficult to develop. She was a woman of mean understanding, little information, and uncertain temper. When she was discontented, she fancied herself nervous. The business of her life was to get her daughters married. Its solace was visiting and news. Ah, love! It is one of the most famous arias of all time, so don't be afraid to sing along. You all know the words. the pipe organ. No instrument on earth demands so much from its practitioner. And now, for your listening pleasure, I've brought in one of my favorite scene partners, the lovely Jane Valderrama. Allow me to set the stage. Romeo, a Montague, has snuck into a gala being thrown by the rival Capulet family. But it is here that he first sets his eyes on his heart's greatest desire, the vision known as Juliet. If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle fine is this: my lips, two blushing pilgrims, ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this. For saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss.
Have not saints lips, and holy palmers too?
Aye, pilgrim, lips that they must use in prayer.
Oh, Then, dear saint, let lips do what hands do. They pray. Grant thou, lest faith turn to despair.
Saints, do not move, though grant for prayer's sake.
Then move not, while my prayer's effect I take. Thus, from my lips, by thine, my sin is purged. He kisses her.
Then have my lips the sin that they have took.
Sin from my lips? Oh, trespass sweetly urged. Give me my sin again. He kisses her again.
You kiss by the book.
Thank you, Jane. Ravishing as always. Stay tuned, faithful listener. More classic music and literature is coming your way.